Hi, I'm Stephanie Mathias. Welcome to First Story. Today on First Story, we take you to a 9,000-year-old archaeological site that is threatened by a mega-provincial construction project.
These sites mean nothing to them.
Thank you so much.
We talk to author Drew Hayden Taylor about his life, his work, and learning to love bologna.
So I'm working on a recipe called bologna tartare.
And we meet an extraordinary young woman challenging stereotypes one photo at a time. When we come back, the fight to save the Glenrose Cannery archaeological site. The Fraser River is home to countless First Nations archaeological sites. Many of them have never been disturbed. One of the oldest is the Glenrose Cannery site on Musqueam territory. The South Fraser Perimeter Road, part of BC's Gateway program, is now under construction, and this site is right in its path.
You know, it's quite the experience to actually pick something up that somebody dropped 4,000 or 8,000 years ago and be able to say, wow, that was the last person that touched that. This is a pebble tool, chopper stone, and it looks like a net stake sitting right beside it.
Some would call him a pot hunter. Some would even call him a looter. But Tony Hardy calls himself an amateur archaeologist.
Legally, this is a protected heritage site, so you're not supposed to be down here walking this beach at all or collecting off this beach.
Hardy and many others like him have been coming here to the Glenrose Cannery site for years. The number and variety of First Nation artifacts that he has uncovered is nothing short of astounding.
There's some jade adze blades for woodworking. The white one is mutton fat, and the rest of them are the green jadeite, and then some nephrite as well. Down here are some microblade cores and a microblade fragments and a microblade core. Some bone tools, a bone spear point, another spear, a chisel, some of the stone beads that are found, lip labrets. I believe those are for children. There would be they're quite small for an adult. There's different styles of the arrowheads and knives that are found there, different materials, petrified wood, agate, and basalt. There's actually a baby tooth there that's drilled and made as a pendant.
My name is Delbert Guerin, and I'm a member of the Musqueam Indian Band. I was chief there for 8 years, and I don't know exactly how many years totally I was on council, but it was quite a few years all told, since 1964. A long time ago, before the lands lower down from us were formed, lived up here on what was basically Surrey. And one of the interesting stories was there's two ladies that trained their sons so well they could run on water. Scalitzimus and Schmalo were their names. And if any of the island people came over and tried to rob or take advantage of anybody over here, they were sent to take care of.
These days, there is little protection for this site, supernatural or otherwise. But local tribes have been using this spot for an estimated 10,000 years.
The people of original Capilano people and the original Burrard people, or Tlautis as they call themselves today, Musqueams, the Katzie, Langley, and Coquitlam, Chewasans, and even Lummi before the 49th parallel went in, the borderline, were all like one people who took advantage of the great salmon hordes that came into the rivers here to provide them with food for the summers and throughout the winter months.
Now, with the salmon all but disappeared, There is little left but the memories of a way of life that will never return. But even these memories face annihilation. By 2013, the South Perimeter Road will run right over the Glenrose Cannery site. The road will mainly serve truck traffic heading to and from the Tsawwassen dockyards.
I am pleased to announce today that we are launching the Gateway program for the province of British Columbia.
As we started planning the route, we basically sat down with Musqueam and other First Nations archaeologists, and we've had extensive meetings, extensive field trips, and we're planning the whole area and recognition of the area and protection of the area with Musqueam and other First Nations, along with professional archaeologists.
After repeated requests by First Story, the Musqueam Band Council has refused to comment on the matter. And according to Delbert Gurin, there is very little awareness in the community about this site so rich in First Nations history.
And the people in the community don't seem to be worrying about it. Unfortunately, they don't broadcast things too well throughout the community. We don't have too many general meetings, unfortunately. Council is supposed to have 4 general meetings per year to allow people to be able to talk about general topics, but our present-day chief and council don't do that.
This is a good example of the Midden Wall and all the different cultural layers that exist. And this goes very deep into the beach. And this will go way back, right past the train tracks and almost up to River Road in spots.
Tony Hardy sees himself not as a pot hunter or looter, but as an archivist, taking some action when no one else is stepping up to the plate.
Myself, I'm here to preserve what's being naturally washed out and eroded from the bank, and I don't want to see it destroyed and gone forever. I think it'd be better at least documented what has been found on this beach and what's come out of it over the years. If I was a Musqueam member, I would be certainly willing to come down here and volunteer my services on a regular basis to walk this beach and make sure there wasn't people pot hunting on it and picking up what's been washed out during the day.
First Story showed up at the Musqueam Band offices to seek answers. We were quickly shown the door.
I think we've already defined. That's the way it's going to be right now. Please don't turn that on.
But if the Musqueam Band Council will not share their vision for the site, Tony Hardy has no problem sharing his.
But it would be nice to see maybe the Musqueam or one of the First Nations step up to the plate and have people down here on a regular basis collecting up what is being washed out and maybe facilitate it in a museum such as the Cannery behind us. That would be a great place to house 8 or 9, 10,000 years of fishing on the Fraser River. Even the Cannery itself is going to be extinct. There's only a couple left in British Columbia that are still standing. This one's right in the Lower Mainland, right in the hub. What a great tourist attraction. To have that filled with all sorts of artifacts, it would be just an amazing thing to have in our community.
Former Musqueam chief Delbert Gurin has resigned himself to the fact that by 2013, the Glenrose Cannery site will be under tons of sand and gravel, effectively erasing 10,000 years of First Nations history.
Well, I would like to see it protected in the best way possible, even though they're still going to push the gateway through. But I think they have to have they should have respect for the ancestors that lived here long before they came.
Stay with us for a chat with one of Canada's leading Native authors, Drew Hayden Taylor. He is half Ojibwe and half Caucasian. He says this makes him an occasion. Drew Hayden Taylor has just published his 22nd book, and we caught up with him to talk about his life, his work, and moving back to the res.
The assistant dramaturge of the theater company, a young and intelligent woman, asked me quite seriously and innocently what my name, Drew Hayden Taylor, meant in English.
Drew Hayden Taylor was born and raised on the Curve Lake First Nation in central Ontario. When he was 18, he moved to Toronto, where over the next few decades he developed a reputation as one of the most prolific and popular First Nation writers in Canada. He moved back home a couple of years ago and is now relearning the res lifestyle.
I've gone from being a res Indian to an urban Indian to an urbane Indian, and now I'm going back to being a res Indian. Well, I'm trying to bring a little bit of the Toronto lifestyle back, so I'm working on a recipe called bologna tartare. I have not quite fully embraced a complete love of bologna.
We brought Drew into the CTV studio to talk about his last 3 books and the new one that is just hitting the bookstores.
I didn't find my profession. My profession found me, and I ended up being a writer and doing my first serious, what I consider my first serious writing credits when I was like 26, 27. So I'm a Johnny-come-lately.
As a child, Drew was an avid reader and a sci-fi geek.
I was really into science fiction. You know, it was like the Big Bang Theory on the reserve. I come from a huge family. My mother's the oldest of 14, so I had 20 to 30 first cousins, and I mean, we were all close. We all hung out together. We're all buddies. So I wasn't so much an outsider, but I did read more than most of the other people. So I guess I'd be best to be classified as the nerd, the geek, whatever.
Drew describes himself not as a writer, playwright, or columnist, but as a contemporary storyteller.
We've gone from telling stories around the campfire and a kitchen table to telling stories around the stage and the television and the printed word, the Kindle, for lack of a better term. The trickster is a creature of appetites. He wants what he wants when he wants it. My function, as I see it, whether it's writing a play, short story, a novel, even one of my essays, is to tell a story. And I like using humor in what I do. To me, that's given a choice between making somebody angry, making somebody cry, or making somebody laugh, I will choose to make them laugh. With Motorcycles and Sweetgrass, I took a native legend and contemporized it, where the trickster comes back to a typical native community, riding a vintage 1953 Indian Chief motorcycle and looking like a white guy so no one will recognize him. And he comes into this community, mayhem and hijinks ensue. Great philosophical issues were bandied about with enthusiasm. There were frequent associate members that occasionally joined in the discussion, but these 4 individuals were the core members of the society. They were the mainstay of the community, seldom moving from the perch, seldom without a beer in their hand, debating late into the night. All were well into their 40s in both age and belt size.
There we go.
Thank you.
A skilled investigator and observer of all things native, in his book, Me Funny, Drew wanted to celebrate and embrace the role of native humor and dispel a few stereotypes.
I would look at the medium and the literature that was out when I was growing up, and almost all of it portrayed Native people as dark, depressing, bleak, sad, and angry. And this wasn't the Native communities I know. I've been very fortunate to have traveled to over 130 Native communities across Canada and the United States, and everywhere I went, I was greeted with a laugh, a smile, and a joke. So I ended up editing and compiling a collection of 13 essays by different writers with different areas of expertise about Native humor. We put it together in a book with Douglas and McIntyre called Me Funny, and it was surprisingly successful.
After the success of Me Funny, Drew began to ask himself, what else has the popular media missed, skewed, or mangled when it comes to Native people?
And it came to me, Native sexuality. Because again, if you look at the popular media, the only time Native sexuality is ever mentioned is in negative terms. It's either dead hookers, high rates of STDs in the Native community, or sexual abuse in residential schools. That's it. And we have the highest birth rate of any ethnic group in Canada, so there must be something fun about it.
Now his 22nd book is just hitting the shelves.
You can find yourself as a knight and a maiden in a medieval room. I started taking my various essays and adapting them to the teachings of the four directions until, dealing with the teachings, the messages, the important aspects of what that direction has to teach, and dividing them up and then putting them together into this particular book. This is my 22nd book, if you can believe this.
For budding writers, Drew recommends hard work and a thick skin.
There's an old saying, there's no such thing as a good writer, only a good rewriter. Don't be afraid to rewrite. Secondly, don't be disappointed if you're rejected. You will be rejected. It's the nature of the beast. I've never taken a writing course in my life, so I don't have a degree in writing or anything of that. I just sit down, I live life, I have interesting experiences, and I use that in my writing, and it seems to work for me.
When we come back, a young Anishinaabe woman using photography to change our perceptions. An image, a photo. It has the power to change how we see the world, to change how we see a culture. And for Nadia Quandabens, photography had the power to change her life.
I really like it. Like I said, I think it's really honest and it's really present in the moment.
It's clever. I like it.
Nadia Quandabens spent her childhood seeing photos of Aboriginal people in school textbooks, in Thanksgiving decorations, but she always felt there was something missing, something out of touch with who Native people are today.
We've all been to school, and we've all seen images of Native people in headdresses and living in teepees, and just that sort of image is, of course it's valid, it happened. But the key word there is happened. We don't live like that. And we're contemporary. We live in cities and the reserve.
Nadia grew up in Northern Ontario. Today, she's an entrepreneurial Ojibwe woman who travels to cities and reservations all over Canada and the US for her photography.
Chin up slightly. Good. Here we go.
Working to showcase Indigenous people in a contemporary way.
The goal behind, my work is to just promote that image as much as I can, but in a positive light. The other side to that is, in the contemporary context, you see a lot of imagery of Native people as like protesters. A lot of mainstream media representation of Native people, I think, kind of takes on a negative tone to it, which I would love to, be a part of changing.
More than just a hobby, Nadia makes a living off of her photography. In 2008, she started Redworks Studio, making a positive portrayal of Aboriginals into a business venture. Now, portraits, events, headshots, and prints are a part of her everyday life.
It's empowering. I think it's important. It's good for artists to, get out there, promote your work as an artist, and, there are different perspectives.
She's photographed some of today's most famous in Indian country. From musicians to actors and people from all walks of life.
Right, can I have your chin up just a little more? Good. I've been doing photography now for about 10 years now. I took an introductory course to photography back when I was in film college in Thunder Bay, and I just kept up with it. And at the time I was kind of hesitant and I wasn't quite sure if, you know, that was like something that I wanted to do, but I just went for it. Ever since then, it's just been picking up. I've been learning a lot of new things, just meeting different people all over Canada, all over the States.
Nadia always considered herself a bit introverted in her own creative world of poetry and music. And with photography, she's broken from her shell.
So we'll get some shots of you in the corner and play with the lines a bit. Once the camera, I guess, was put in my hands, it was just another means of expression of that. Just the way of seeing things that I guess just comes naturally.
That looks so hot.
Check that out. Concrete Indians is a portrait series of my photography company. Basically what it is, it's an exploration of collective and individual Native identity. People send in portrait ideas from, I've been getting them from all over the place. Canada and the States, a lot of people are really relating to the message behind it. Focus is mainly on portraying our people in an urban context. Well, like Toronto, Winnipeg, Vancouver, all these places, there are circles of Native people that, you know, gather and find each other in the city and, you know, explore what it means to be Native.
Nadia has come a long way from the days she was bounced around foster homes as a child. She has found her passion through the lens, giving an outlet for other Indigenous people to show themselves to the world. With Concrete Indians and Redworks Studio, she is shedding light that Natives are not just relics of the past. They are just as much a part of the present and future.
There's definitely a need for word and knowledge about our cultures to get out there.
Thanks for joining us. You can see this and all First Story episodes on our website. I'm Stephanie Mathias. See you next time.